Hi everybody, and welcome back to Teachers Talk Money, where I help teachers master their money in order to give back to themselves. Today I'm going to be talking about something I did to give back to myself recently, which was taking advantage of distance learning and living in another state for a month. Specifically, I went and lived in the state of Vermont for the entire month of October with my best friend and fellow teacher at my school, Melissa. So as you guys know, I absolutely love it when other personal finance people share exact numbers that things cost, whether that be their budget or their net worth or vacations they took or buying a home. I love being nosy and getting into other people's numbers, and so that is the kind of content that I want to create for you guys as well. So that being said, I'm going to go over every single thing I spent living in Vermont for an entire month so you guys can see exactly how much it cost. So the first expense we're going to talk about is lodging. And this is the only expense that I had for the trip that I took out of my travel savings instead of just using my regular monthly budget for. For the Airbnb for the entire month, I paid $656, which made up my half of the total cost of the Airbnb. The reason everything else came from my regular budget was because all of my expenses would be the normal living expenses that I would already have for the month, such as groceries, eating out, and anything else that came up. But with lodging, I'm already paying my rent here in DC, and so that big chunk of money would have had to come out of my travel savings, which is exactly what I did. I paid for it way back in August, and I've been rebuilding my travel fund since. One thing to note is that when you get an Airbnb for a month, there's usually some percentage discount for getting it for the entire month. That was something that me and my friend were able to do when we booked our Airbnb in Ludlow, Vermont. So now let's talk about the other variable expenses. Your variable expenses in the month are the things that are different each and every month. So your fixed expenses are those bills, those things that come directly out of your checking account, anything that's the exact same amount every single month. Whereas your variable expenses change month to month, and this is like groceries, gas, dining out, and all of those things. So let's take a look at these variable expenses, starting with groceries for the month. Now, I noticed that groceries were more expensive where we were in Vermont. I think that had to do with it being a small town and us not having a membership to the local grocery store. Now, over the 6 trips that me and Melissa took to the grocery store, we spent $229, which is $29 over what I had originally budgeted for the month. I always budget $200 for groceries, and we went $29 over that this month. And this doesn't even reflect all of the groceries that we used, because the last week my partner Brian and my best friend Sarah came up, and they had agreed to cover the groceries and gas for that time that they were there, just because me and Melissa were covering the Airbnb. And so we did get even more money in groceries than that, but me and Melissa covered $229 of that each for the first 3 weeks of the month, which is kind of a lot, but like I said, it seemed a lot more expensive to me. Now, it's easy to get really stressed out when you overspend in a certain category, but keep in mind you have other categories you can underspend in to kind of have those things even out. And in my opinion, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this as long as you stay on top of it, and you're going to see how that works out in the rest of my budget this month. So let's talk about the other things I spent on. This is what I normally have designated as my dining category for a normal month. This month it covered all kinds of things. It covered buying cheese and maple syrup from farms. It covered going to Ben & Jerry's. It covered apple picking and pumpkin picking. A cidery tasting, all kinds of things. So every little outing that we did, I kind of just put in my dining fund, even though it was a lot of other activities. Also, it counts all of the takeout we got. So all of this together, I had originally budgeted $200 for, and the total came out to $203. So I did go $3 over budget in this category also. Now let's talk about gas. I paid $31 for my half of the gas for the trip up to Vermont, which is really low. This is the one area I went under budget in. I'd originally budgeted $50. Gas was super cheap the entire time. And I'm pretty sure Melissa's car got really good gas mileage. I think that's the only way that this worked out that way. And then finally we have my other category, which is everything else. A lot of the expenses in my other category were typical monthly expenses I always have to pay, like my variable bills. So a lot of these were not really Vermont specific, except a purchase from Rite Aid, where we bought a couple of assorted things, as well as hair cutting scissors because Melissa cut my hair while we were in Vermont. And of course, the cost of half of the Easy Pass payments that Melissa made for tolls. And everything else was my normal bills or just other things that came up. This came out to $157, which is $7 over what I had budgeted. Now, of course, I still had to cover all of my fixed expenses for the month, so I'm going to show them to you here, but they always come out to the same amount, which is $1,107. So that is no change from what I normally spend or from what you saw in my budget video in the beginning of the month. Now let's talk about savings, because I still had every single one of my savings goals during this month. Just because you're traveling or going on vacation does not make an excuse for you to not save. This is the beauty of having a plan for your money. If you saw my October net worth video, which I'll link below if you want to check it out, my net worth made gains despite the fact that I was essentially taking a trip the entire month. Of course, I was still working, so keep that with a grain of salt, but my income was still used not only to pay for all my expenses that came up, but to save. Overall, I saved $681, which is slightly more than I had originally planned in my October budget video, which I'll also link down below. And this is because my monthly income is actually slightly higher than I anticipated it to be, which I explain in the video. What you don't see here in my savings is that I also invested over $700 in October. And the reason you don't see that is because it comes directly out of my paycheck before the money comes to me to go into my employer-sponsored retirement plan, which is my 457B. Also, if you have any questions about whatever I just said or you don't know what that meant, I'm going to link a video down below where I break down all of the investing options for a teacher. It's honestly great for people who aren't teachers too, because all of the same concepts apply. I just made it specifically about the different accounts that teachers have access to. So check that out down below so you can learn about investing. So let's take a look at all of the numbers overall. I had originally budgeted to spend my entire income for October, which is what I always do. I give every dollar a job, whether that be bills, discretionary spending, or saving. And my income totals $2,388. So that is what I had planned to spend. As you could see, because of all of my variable categories where I went over, including groceries and eating out and my other fund, and because I went under in the gas category, I ended up going over my monthly income by $19 and spending a total of $2,407. So for months like this where I go over, this is why I keep a small buffer in my checking account. For me, I keep $500 there in case I go over for any reason or in case I have an expense that's in between paychecks. It's important to learn to be okay with going over budget sometimes and to know and accept that that doesn't make you a failure and it doesn't make you bad at money. It's the reason you have a plan and it's the reason you have a buffer. Thank you guys for watching this video. It feels so great to be home and to be filming these in my own apartment again. I hope you enjoyed digging into my spending habits for the month with me. Like I said, I love being nosy about other people's finances, so I hope you got some value and some entertainment from this video. Please make sure to like this video if you do, and to subscribe to my channel if you want more content like this. Have an amazing week, you guys. Bye!